Ladies and gentlemen, may I announce the arrival of our chief guest, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Sher Bahadur Deuba. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our high dignitary.
ढुङ्गा फुलका हामी एउटै माला नेपाली सार्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली सायो ढुङ्गा फुलका हामी एउटै माला नेपाली सार्वभौम भई फैलिएका मेची महाकाली प्रकृतिका कोटि कोटि सम्पदाको आचला वीरहरूका राजधानी स्वतन्त्र ज्ञान भूमि शान्ति भूमि तराई पहाड हिमाल अखण्ड यो प्यारो हाम्रो मातृभूमि नेपाल बहु जाति भाषा धर्म संस्कृति छन् विशाल अग्रगामी राष्ट्र हाम्रो जय जय नेपाल.
Thank you, distinguished dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. Esteemed Session Chair, Honorable Ramsai Prasad Yadav, the Minister for Forest and Environment, our Chief Guest, Right Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal, Mr. Sher Bahadur Deuba, our special guest, Honorable Bimala Rai Paurel, the Member of National Assembly, our esteemed guest, Mr. Shankar Das Bairagi, the Chief Secretary at the Government of Nepal, our esteemed guest joining us virtually, His Excellency Minister Roberto Natali, Chair Mountain Partnership Steering Committee, His Excellency Alt Mirzaev Nurian, the Ambassador at Large, Kyrgyzstan, to all the high representatives from the Nepal government, the entities under it, and also the high dignitaries from the national and international stakeholder community, esteemed invitees joining us in person and virtually from the region and beyond. Namaste and a very, very good morning once again. Ladies and gentlemen, limited to deliberations until a while ago, the changes are visible now. I need not mention that. They have arrived at our near vicinity and our courtyards and are getting more visible by the day in frequency and occurrence. As the planet warms, ladies and gentlemen, diverse ecosystems, including our very own majestic mountain glaciers, are already seeing dangerous effects of these very changes. Further warming is bound to pose threat to the food supplies, force migration of countless species, and bring about dramatic changes in the icy regions across the globe, and ultimately threaten the very existence of life on our planet. The receding snow lines, ladies and gentlemen, drying out vegetation, changing mountain river flows, increasing rock slides, avalanches, flooding, name them, just name them. The list goes on and on. These are signs. These are existential threat to millions of people across the globe, and which are getting louder and more prominent as well as frequent by the day. And it is this urgency, ladies and gentlemen, this call that brings us under one roof today. Together, we mark the opening of a two-day regional policy dialogue, marking again the official commencement of the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development as designated by the United Nations General Assembly. As one among the 94 signatories, this is an opportunity for Nepal to draw global attention and develop a fresh collaborative roadmap. For us here, it is certainly a renewed beginning, ladies and gentlemen. We are profoundly pleased to be hosting this crucial gathering amidst each one of yours valued presence at this venue. To make it formal, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite on stage the Secretary at the Ministry of Forest and Environment, Mr. P. Narayan Karel.
Thank you, Sivaniji. Chair, Honorable Minister of Forest and Environment, Chief Guest, Right Honorable Sherbahadur Deuba, the Prime Minister of Nepal, Special Guest, Honorable Bimala Rai Paudel, Member, National Assembly, Mr. Shankar Das Bairagi, Chief Secretary, Government of Nepal, Minister Roberto Natali, the Chair, Mountain Partnership Steering Committee, Excellencies, Keynote Speaker, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and namaste. We are gathering here to celebrate International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development, Regional Policy Dialogue on Sustainable Mountain Solution. In this important event, we would like to warm welcome to the chief guest, Right Honorable Sherbahadur Deuba, the Prime Minister of Nepal. Even with the very busy schedule, you have given the priority and time for the inaugural session of this important program. I would kindly request all the participants to welcome our chief guest with giving a very big hand. Your gracious presence shows that Nepal is leading on mountain issues and agenda. In fact, under your leadership, Nepal led on mountain and climate change agenda in Glasgow Climate Conference COP26. Moreover, I would like to welcome special guest, excellencies, keynote speaker, and panelists for your presence and participation. Your contribution would be instrumental to achieve the intended goal of this conference. The objective of this conference is to draw attention of national, regional, and international communities on mountain issue and develop a very collaborative roadmap for the sustainable mountain solution. It is also important to note that mountains and Himalayas landscape comprises 27% area of the planet, where today we are in the range of Hindu Kush Himalaya, the largest and contiguous mountain of the world. As we know, mountains are most beautiful landscape and productive ecosystem of the planet, providing environmental goods and service to sustaining the livelihood of 1 billion people living in the upland and even larger population reliant on the lowlands. Mountains store water in the form of snow, glacier, permafrost, wetland, and rivers, supply water to more than half the population of the world. Mountains hold ecological, aesthetic, and socio-economic significance for the local, regional, and global population depending on these resources for food, water, hydroelectricity, timber, biodiversity, and tourism. Thus, mountains are the pulse of the people and the planet. Global significance of the mountain, however, are under threat due to the impact of climate change because of altitude, slope, and nature-based socio-economic system. Mountain ecosystems are fragile and sensitive to climate change. Mountain glaciers of Nepal are melting, declining biodiversity, and people are facing greater hardship in the mountain. Due to the extreme weather, climate-induced disasters such as flood and landslides have become the phenomenon in Nepal. As the region, size of economic, non-economic, and human loss are significantly increasing. Thus, loss and damage due to climate-induced disaster must be our common agenda. Given the priority to the mountain, UN has designated 2020 as the International Years of Sustainable Mountain Development. Government of Nepal has decided to celebrate the year with a number of programs and activities to identify problem and prospect of mountain solution. This 2 days workshop is the beginning of the celebration to develop a roadmap for collaboration, partnership, and action among mountainous countries for cooperation in addressing challenges faced by the mountains region of the world. On behalf of Ministry of Forest and Environment, I would like to thank FAO, UNDP, ECMOD, WWF Nepal Program, Kirdar, and DCA for your effective partnership to make this event successful. Thankful for the media colleagues for your support to raise the mountain agenda for the public discourse. Last but not the least, we are thankful to the Chandragiri Hill Resort and its owner, Mr. Chandra Dhakal, for your logistic support and hospitality. We are very much thankful to the chief guest, Right Honorable Prime Minister, and distinguished guests for your presence. I wish a very, very successful event ahead. Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you indeed. And right away, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to steer you to the ceremonious moment of this entire convergence, the formal opening of the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. And to do the honors, I have the pleasure of placing my humble request to our chief guest, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Sher Bahadur Deuba, to kindly walk down the stage and mark the formal commencement of the entire celebration, the year-long celebration, by watering the plant, the potted plant placed in front of us. I request the dignitaries to join our Right Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. This, ladies and gentlemen, marks the commencement of the Regional Policy Dialogue on Sustainable Mountain Solution, which, on the long run, marks the commencement, the official commencement of the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development here in Nepal, which, as I reiterate, will be marked with series of events spread across the coming year. And here today, beginning now, we shall hear from policymakers, scientists, high representatives from mountain stakeholder community at this opening session and in the panel, the thematic panel discussions spread across the 2 days we are here. The synthesis, ladies and gentlemen, of these very deliberations at the regional meeting is expected to finalize a year-long roadmap of Nepal's annual celebrations of the IYM 2022. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, we now move ahead with two very important presentations, which revolves around the theme and is aimed at giving you a quick view or a quick sneak into what the entire celebration, celebratory events, the object of IYM 2022 is all about. In this entire celebrations, the Mountain Partnership Alliance is at the core. Mountain Partnership, as you know, is a UN voluntary alliance of partners, which was founded in 2002. And given the importance of sharing of knowledge, information, and expertise, the entire events would be revolving across these very objects. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, we will be hearing two perspectives. We'll be presenting you two perspectives. One is the global and the other a local perspective. The first presentation will be a virtual presentation joined in by the Mountain Partnership Secretariat FAO, Mr. Rosa Laura Romeo, who will be making a presentation on International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development, which gives us a global perspective on this event. Can we have the presenter on?
Good morning, namaste everyone. It's a real pleasure to be joining you today. And Honorable Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba,
Technology certainly has given
Minister
us the privilege
of Forestry Ramsai Prasad
Yadav,
Yadav, Chair of the Mountain Partnership Roberto Natali, Excellencies, colleagues from FAO, KIRDAC, ISIMO, WWF. Dear colleague, it's a real honor to be with you today. This is the first official meeting of this International Year of Mountains, and I'm very pleased to be here with such an important country like Nepal to start the celebration of this year. But I would like to highlight that this year should not be only about celebration. This year should be very much be about action. And I will guide you through a very short presentation, but I will be very interested in hear about your deliberation. Because what we need to do is really to join forces to make sure that this year can really make a difference, can really bring development to mountain people and mountain ecosystems around the world. So as you have heard, the at the initiative of the government of Kyrgyzstan, this International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development was proclaimed on 16 December 2021. Was sponsored by 94 government And the mountain parish was officially invited to facilitate the observance of the year. And as you can see from a very impressive list of countries, there were many countries from Asia that sponsored this presentation, and even countries that usually are not really sponsoring presentation, like the United States, like many European countries, like China, etc. So this is a very important sign, is a very relevant indication of the fact that mountain development is getting more and more important. People are acknowledging the importance of mountain development for the health of the planet. And this is an opportunity that we cannot miss. This is an opportunity that we should jointly take to ensure that our work, our collective efforts are really brought to a different level. So in particular, we need to join forces and promote concrete action to advance scientific evidence, because we need to inform policymakers, and we need to catalyze funding for climate change adaptation. We need to work together to highlight mountains in the main United Nations processes, like the United Nations Conventions for Climate Change, Biodiversity, and to combat desertification. We need to ensure that mountain countries or countries with important mountain areas join forces, create groups so that they can jointly request attention, funding, specific policies for mountains, because this has not been the case so far, in spite of the evidence that we have through many reports, including the recent IPCC report on mountains, of the importance on the impact of climate change on mountain areas. One way in which we can do this is by strengthening also mountain committees. Many countries have created throughout the years, and basically also thanks to the previous international year that took place in 2002, they have created national committees for mountains. These are proven to be very important bodies to promote multidisciplinary work at national level that can be brought up at global and regional level. So this is an area where we need to work together, and the government have a special responsibility to promote these national committees. These are really platforms that can promote discussion and information action at national level. And I would encourage you to look at this possibility. So allow me to quick recap why mountains matter at global level. Of course, speaking to Nepal, you know this very well, but let me just provide a very quick overview about why mountains are relevant at global level. Mountains cover about 27% of the Earth's land surface, and they host 1,100,000 people around the world. And allow me to say that this population is in vast majority in developing countries, because in the northern part of the world, only 100 million people are still living in mountain areas. As we know, mountains provide very important resources to the planet, very important goods and services, and water is by far the most important one. But mountains are also covered by forests, and they host very important biodiversity. And I'm here today in Andorra, a small country between France and Spain, at the Congress on Mountain Tourism, because mountain tourism is also increasingly important and is becoming in many countries a very important part of their GDP or their national economy. Mountains are magnificent, and they are very relevant for most of the religion in the world. They are an important source of spirituality, and they are also very relevant for many activities. So mountains are really in need of more attention, more recognition in the UN processes. And this is why events like this one today are particularly relevant. But we also know that mountains are under pressure. They are under pressure for many reasons. We have heard some of that in the previous speeches. Climate change, hunger, poverty, migration, they are posing very heavy token of mountain areas. And we know that mountains people are among the poorest and the most malnourished in the world. They're facing high level of vulnerability to food insecurity. In FAO, we have been monitoring the vulnerability to food insecurity since the year 2000. And unfortunately, this insecurity is constantly on the rise. Now we have about half of the mountain population living in rural areas is at risk of food insecurity, which is, of course, a not acceptable indicator. We also know that COVID-19, the pandemic, has heavily compounded the vulnerability of mountain communities because it has disrupted the livelihood, because the livelihood in many mountain areas in the world is based on three pillars. And these three pillars are agriculture, tourism, and remittances. Remittances, because of the global crisis, have heavily diminished during the last years. Tourism has basically stopped in most countries in the world, especially international tourism, which is a very good source of income for many communities. And mountain agriculture has been also disrupted by the lack of mobility and the reduced number of tourism and opportunities for selling products. So we need to act, and we need to act now, and this international year is an excellent opportunity to revert this situation and to take action. Allow me quickly to recap which are the key steps in the mountain agenda. I would like to start with the creation of ICIMOD, which is not in this list, but is a very important element. It started, I think ICIMOD was created back in 1983, so well beyond the mountain agenda officially started in the UN. And probably the creation of ICIMOD had a very important role in promoting more attention to mountains in the United Nations systems. So the very first time that mountains received attention was in the Rio Earth Summit back in 1992, when one chapter of the Agenda 21 was devoted to mountain. And recognizing the fragility of mountain ecosystem was really an important building block of this process. After that, we had a number of important events. The Alpine Convention was founded in Europe. In 2002, also thanks to Kyrgyzstan, which is clearly leading the mountain agenda globally, the first International Year of Mountains was proclaimed, and that was an important springboard for many, many activities around the world, including the Mountain Partnership. The Mountain Partnership was created in 2002 in the context of the International Year. Then other conventions were founded, the one for the Carpathian in Europe. Then we had other important steps in the UN processes, like the Future We Want, which includes a chapter on mountains again. We had some creation of the African Regional Mountain Forum. We had the Agenda 2030, which includes 3 targets for mountains. The members of the Mountain Partnership jointly committed to implement the Agenda 2030 in mountain areas through the framework for action that was approved at the Mountain Partnership meeting in 2017. And now we have this 2022 International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. Again, thanks to the perseverance and commitment of Kyrgyzstan. So these are the key blocks of the mountain agenda. And we really need to have now a step forward to include that more visibility is given to mountains and more resources are channeled to mountain areas. Allow me to say just a few words about the Mountain Partnership. This is the only United Nations alliance, and it's an alliance of government, civil society organization, and it's dedicated to protecting the mountain environment and mountain people around the world. We have many, many members, as you can see. Many of the organizations, I guess, in the room are members of the Mountain Partnership, and we have a presence in 98 countries. We have 60 governments that are very active, several international organizations, and many groups from the civil society. This partnership is supported by a secretariat, which is hosted at the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and is supported financially by Italy and Switzerland, and we're very grateful to our donor, and is also supported by Andorra with a secondment. And allow me to say that without the support of these 3 governments, we wouldn't be here today, because it's really instrumental, their support, to allow this small secretariat to support this partnership. We celebrate every year the International Mountain Day on 11th of December, and I know that Nepal is very active. And this year, the theme will focus on mountain women, in recognition of the important role that women have in mountain areas. So Women Move Mountain. And we hope to be celebrating this International Mountain Day with you again this year. And this is an opportunity to take also stock of the activities that will be taking place during this international year. So thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to be with you today. Congratulations to Nepal for organizing the first meeting of this international year. Congratulations to Kyrgyzstan for leading this process. And over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam, for this very comprehensive presentation, giving us, in a nutshell, the entire state of affairs. Coming from all the efforts from the past, from all the stakeholder community, stakeholder entities, and comparatively, we have so much information and detailed reports on the matter that we have at hand. And this year, IYM 2022 is here, but to add pace to our momentum of the actions at the ground. As we look forward very optimistically, ladies and gentlemen, let me move on to the second presentation that dwells on the local context. Allow me to share that a steering committee under the headed by the Secretary of the Ministry of Forest and Environment oversees the IYM 2022 here in Nepal and has with it the stakeholder partners in the domestic scene. And now I have the pleasure to invite up on stage to share the roadmap of IYM and the discussion and endorsement, Dr. Sindhu Prasad Dhungana, the Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Forests and Environment.
Thank you, Shivani-ji. The chair of this program, Honorable Minister for Forest and Environment, the chief guest of the program, Right Honorable Prime Minister, and the guest of the ceremony, a member of National Assembly, Honorable Bimala Rai Paudel, Chief Secretary of the Government of Nepal, and all the guests, dignitaries, all the participants, panelists, speakers, chairs, and all the participants who are connected virtually, more than 200 participants connected virtually from across the world to this program. I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of the Government of Nepal, Ministry of Forest and Environment. As Roja Laura presented about the global context of United Nations International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development 2022, how Nepal is celebrating the year as a part of responding to United Nations call to all the countries, all the international agencies, and local organizations and non-government organizations and all the stakeholders. So Nepal, and it is honored to be announced here that according to Roja Laura, this is the first in the world, the first event that we are organizing celebrating the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. So it is a really honor to us. And how Nepal is celebrating International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development is actually, Nepal being a mountainous country, the United Nations designation of the year is the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development is actually an opportunity for a country like Nepal to highlight its agenda, its issues of mountains, and also the opportunities of the mountains, and at the same time to collaborate with mountainous countries and associated supporters for the future actions. So this is the context for us. We would like to customize the international year to our country's context with the aim that how we aim is actually this is to draw the attention of local, national, regional, and international communities to Nepal's mountain issues and to develop a collaborative roadmap to sustainable mountain solutions through the implementation of various activities in celebration of the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. This is our overarching goal of the celebration of IYM 2022. Having said that, we have some expected outcomes of the year celebrating IYM 2022 is first expectation is to deliver messages to the government of Nepal, province governments and local levels to integrate mountain concerns, for example, mountain biodiversity, mountain ecosystems, mountain cultures, agroeconomy, etc., into their policies, programs, and budgets, and also support the government of Nepal to synthesize key mountain agenda encompassing climate change, economy, agriculture, energy, biodiversity, and water resources for international negotiations and dialogues, and also promote Nepal's mountain biodiversity and ecosystems of sustainable mountain tourism, for sustainable mountain tourism, develop a roadmap for collaborative partnership and actions among mountainous countries for cooperation in addressing challenges faced by the mountainous regions of the world. So these are the aim and objective or expected outcomes of celebrating International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development in Nepal. So we have prepared some roadmap to celebrate the year. First of all, we have formed a steering committee under the chair of the Secretary of the Ministry of Forest and Environment, comprising of different ministries and also some development partners, including UN agencies working in Nepal. And also, we are having a regional policy dialogue on sustainable mountain solution that is happening today. And also, after that, we are planning to have a meeting with members of parliament about the concerns of mountains so that the issues could be internalized into the policies and laws of the country. And also, we are planning another major event, Mountain Advocacy Summit in Mustang, which is a very renowned mountainous place that was also referred in the last COP26 of UNFCCC in Glasgow by the Minister of UK. And then we will be having another consultative meeting in order to feed back to the delegation team to COP27 of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change that is happening in Egypt this year. And then the celebration of year will be concluded on 11th of December 2022, that is the International Mountain Day. This is our roadmap for this year. So these are the tentative time frame for all these activities. And over the year, what we will be talking about, actually we have identified 6 themes associated with the mountains in Nepal. The first one is the mountain economy, because this is the country by and large having a mountainous economy. And also we will be talking about mountain biodiversity and ecosystems. Then we will be talking about mountain culture. And also we will be talking about, as Rosa said, this is the year of International Year of Mountain Movement as well. So that's why we are talking about mountain women. And then also we will be talking about the connection between the mountain and the lowland, associated lowland. And then also obviously it is an overarching cross-cutting issue, that is the climate change. So we'll be talking about the impact of climate change on mountain and all those 5 thematic areas. So specifically what we will be talking about, actually we have not defined what the issues of the mountains are, because this is one of the objectives of the celebration of the International Year, that by the end of the year we will be crystallizing the major mountain agenda of Nepal that can be raised nationally and internationally. But this is very preliminary and just a guiding. For our guiding, we have identified few points. For example, in mountain economy, we would be obviously we will be talking about high altitude pastures and also the nature-based tourism that is part of our country, and also the hydropower, non-timber forest products, small-scale enterprises, agro-economy, mineral industries, and etc. So there can be many points, many components of mountain economy that will be discussed, that will be presented, discussed, and synthesized for creating mountain agenda for the country. And when we will be talking about mountain biodiversity and ecosystems, obviously the high species and ecosystem diversity, because Nepalese mountains are rich of ecosystems and biodiversity. For example, out of 118 ecosystems identified in Nepal so far, 106 lies in mountainous region. So that's why we can see how important mountains are for conserving biodiversity and ecosystems. And also we'll be talking about forest, wetlands, rangelands, and agro-ecosystems in mountains, and threat to mountain biodiversity, because it's not only the opportunities, but we have threats to mountain biodiversity. That will also be discussed. And also we'll be talking about environmental safeguards to development activities in the mountains, because when we have development, infrastructure development activities, they have they impact on biodiversity and ecosystems. So we'll be talking about what would be the safeguards to development activities. And also we'll definitely talking about the opportunities of the mountains. And when we talk about mountain cultures, because it is uniqueness and also the traditional medicines and healing, that will also be discussed, the cultural heritages, indigenous practices, traditional knowledge and skills, mountain tourism, and etc. So we will be identifying more components of mountain cultures during the discussions. And when we talk about mountain women, because there is a separate panel discussion today on mountain women, and 4 women experts will be talking about the mountain women, including our guest, Honorable Bimala Rai Paudel, will be talking about mountain women, and also Stella Tamang will be talking about mountain culture. For example, status of mountain women and impact of climate change on women. Also talking about the feminization of mountain agriculture due to male out-migration. Also the women-led enterprises, women-led adaptation practices, women leadership in mountain movement, and addressing social inclusion at different levels. These are the components of mountain women. When we talk about mountain lowland connections, because the lowland is also directly connected to the mountains. For example, there are 2 ways flows of ecosystem services between the mountain and associated lowland. We have hydrological connections between the 2 regions. Also, we have ecological connections, biodiversity flows, gene flows, and all those things. Also, the economic connections between the mountain and lowlands. Also, the cultural connections between the 2 regions, and also the infrastructural connections between lowland and mountain. So these are the components of mountain lowland connections, but there might be many more components of mountain lowland connections which will be discussed during this policy dialogue. During this policy dialogue, we have 5 thematic areas that I discussed. But so we are not discussing climate change per se, because all these 5 thematic areas will be directly impacted by climate change. And in the conclusion of Nepal's celebration of International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development, we are planning to have few agenda for the government of Nepal. For example, major mountain agenda for Nepal, to input to policies of the government, to raise in international forums such as a conference of the parties of different environmental negotiations, also to develop a partnership between the mountainous countries and also between mountainous and non-mountainous countries, And finally, to transform mountain, because we are talking about different kinds of threats and challenges to the mountains, but we would like to transform mountain from problems to solutions. So that is the main objective of the celebration of International Year of Sustainable Mountain in Nepal. With that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for walking us through the entire series of events spread across the IYM 2022 here in Nepal. And of course, also through the maiden event marking the IYM 2022. That's the Regional Policy Dialogue on Sustainable Mountain Solutions. That's commencing or underway right here amidst us at the moment. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, these two presentations, I believe, sets the tone just right for us now to further hear the statements from our high dignitaries with us here seated at the dais. Now, we all are very much aware that over the many years, Nepal has been taking a lead amidst the mountain countries to voice the problems, the agendas, the challenges, and the consequences that we are having to face at various global platforms and forums. And the coming year, IYM 2022, this occasion certainly comes with another major opportunity for Nepal to make its statement and be heard, and hopefully find a resolve to the problems that we are having to suffer, because mountains are more than the beauty that meets our eyes. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, I now turn to our distinguished dignitaries at the dais. One more time, we are also joined in by two of our high dignitaries virtually through the internet platform. So beginning with, I have the pleasure of placing my humble request to the Honorable Minister Roberto Natali, the Chair of the Mountain Partnership Steering Committee, to make his statement at this forum. I draw your attention towards the screen.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and a good way to start my day to provide some remarks at this important event, the Regional Policy Dialogue on Mountain Solutions. I would like, first of all, to congratulate the government of Nepal for the timely organization of this event, also because this is the first official event taking place in the framework of the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development 2022. And I am delighted to see so many participants together today to discuss how to accelerate and improve our action in favor of mountains. This International Year is a unique opportunity to raise awareness on the role of mountains and mountain people for our planet and sustainable development, as well as for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. It is a real chance to catalyze action and investments to build the resilience of mountain communities and ecosystems in the spirit of the 2030 Agenda, to leave no one behind. This year marks the 20th anniversary since the proclamation of the first International Year of Mountains in 2002 by the United Nations General Assembly. But it also marks the 20th anniversary of the Mountain Partnership, which, as you know, is the only United Nations alliance dedicated to improving the lives of mountain peoples and protecting mountain environments around the world. And these really are quite big challenges. Not only the Italian government is proud to be a founder of the Mountain Partnership, together with Switzerland and the United Nations Environment Programme, but also to be a supporter to its secretariat, which is based at the Food and Agriculture Organization at the United Nations headquarters in Rome. I am also honored in my capacity as chair of the steering committee to highlight that the government of Nepal is a long-standing and active member of the Mountain Partnership. Dear friends of mountains, all along these past 20 years, we had a unique opportunity to reinforce the implementation of Chapter 13 of Agenda 21 and to move mountain issues higher up on the global agenda. And what have we done? For example, during the International Year of Mountains 2002, 78 national committees were set up to lead observance of the year worldwide, and the Mountain Partnership was established. In many countries, those national committees still exist today and are the only national mechanisms devoted to sustainable mountain development. The multidisciplinary composition of these committees has provided a very significant opportunity to implement an integrated approach to mountains. And in parallel, over these past 20 years, the Mountain Partnership has proved to be highly effective in keeping mountains firmly in the spotlight. Advocacy campaigns conducted by Mountain Partnership members contributed a lot to the United Nations decision to include 3 mountain-related targets in the Sustainable Development Goals. Previous advocacy efforts on behalf of mountains led to the United Nations deeming the essential to sustainable development in the outcome documents of Rio+20, the Earth Summit, and the triennial UN General Assembly resolutions on sustainable mountain development. Now, if on the one hand, the movement to promote sustainable development in mountains has grown in recent years, on the other hand, despite a range of commitments, progress is slow in translating these pledges into policies, investments, and actions on the ground. We have to do more, because meanwhile, glaciers are melting and people in mountains are becoming increasingly more vulnerable to food insecurity. And COVID-19, in addition, has further compounded the vulnerabilities of mountain people, already severely affected by climate and other global change. In a few words, we can say that although mountains provide huge benefits for global society, at an international policy level, mountain regions have yet to establish a strong voice, an assertive strong voice. Dear friends of mountain, we only have 8 years left for full implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So it's time to call on all decision makers and stakeholders to strengthen cooperative action, not only of governments, but also of civil society, including youth, mountain communities, private sector, research institutions, and all other relevant stakeholders. In order to proceed on this path, we surely need investments, technology, innovation, and training in mountains. And we need to build upon and share concrete solutions that are emerging from mountains regions to move from incremental change to a transformative response at a larger scale. We need to amplify both indigenous knowledge and the findings of scientific research, such as those just published in the IPCC cross-chapter on mountains, to build evidence of the plight of mountain people. We need to strengthen our multilateral cooperation, including through a major implementation of commitments already existing under multilateral environmental agreements and other agreed commitments of governments to reach common goals. This should include, for instance, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, the High-Level Political Forum, and the United Nations Food System Summit processes. It is a complex task, and we need to act now by joining forces with all stakeholders, fostering partnerships, and spurring sustainable growth in mountains. This 2022 International Year is a great opportunity that we cannot miss. Thank you.
Thank you indeed for your very valued presence and very insightful and valued words. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, we move forward, and we are extremely, extremely humbled and gratified, in fact, to have with us, virtually though, connected His Excellency, the Ambassador at Large of Kyrgyzstan, Honorable Mr. Almaz Zaev Nurian. And before I pass on the forum to His Excellency, the Ambassador, to make IYM 2022 happen has been pivotal. We all are very much thankful, especially the mountain countries are very much humbled and gratified for Kyrgyzstan, the government of Kyrgyzstan, for taking the lead to take this resolution of celebrating 2022 as IYM year. And with these these words of gratitude, I now hand over the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Almurzaev Nurlan, to make his statement.
Honorable Sherbahadur Duba, Prime Minister of Nepal, Honorable Ramsahai Prasad Yadav, Minister of Forests and Environment, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, namaste, and assalamu alaikum. Let me to thank the government of Nepal, Ministry of Forests and Environment, for inviting me as a guest in the inaugural session of Regional Policy Dialogue on Sustainable Mountain Solutions, Kathmandu, Nepal. Thank you very much for the warm words addressing to my country from the Nepal. Mountains, as you know, mountains as habitat for unique species for flora and fauna. Meanwhile, mountainous countries are currently suffering from global warming due to climate change. This change can cause disasters as an overflowing of mountain lakes in the short run and lack of water resources in the long run. Lack of water resources threaten Central Asian countries with a wide range of various problems related to soil degradation, deterioration of agriculture, economic development, welfare of the people, including women and girls, public health, emergencies, etc. This problem need urgent attention and specific efforts in order to be resolved. Taking into consideration the aforementioned problems, my country, Kyrgyzstan, together with other states, has been actively promoting the interests of mountainous countries. Over the years of membership in the United Nations, Kyrgyzstan held global events aimed at attracting the attention of the world community to the problems of mountain regions, attracting assistance to their sustainable development, developing cooperation between them, and strengthening their image as a separate group of states, particularly in association with its partners. The Kyrgyz Republic presented and successfully promoted the following initiatives. United Nations declared 2002 as an International Year of Mountains. The first Bishkek Global Mountain Summit 2002. In 2003, the United Nations proclaimed December 11 as International Mountain Day. From 1998 to 2019, United Nations General Assembly adopted 12 resolutions addressing problems of mountain countries. Group of friends of mountainous countries was established at the UN headquarters in New York 2019. The group is an informal voluntary association of UN member states. International forums of the preservation of snow leopards and their ecosystems 2013 and 2017 in Bishkek. The First World Mountain Forum 2018. On December 2021, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution proclaiming 2022 as the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. That said, Kyrgyzstan intends to initiate a draft resolution of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly on adopting a quinquennium of actions for developing mountain regions from 2023 till 2027 years. In this regard, allow me to call upon all United Nations member states, especially mountainous countries, to support and co-sponsor this document. Taking this opportunity, I also call upon all UN agencies and other relevant stakeholders to actively engage in promotion and implementation of this resolution. I'll thank you.
It is a pleasure to be hearing your very insightful inputs and the valued words. Ladies and gentlemen, we just heard from two of our major or distinguished dignitaries who have been joining us virtually. And one more time, I wish to reiterate that we are altogether over 200 people engaged in this opening ceremony. Some of us are here with us through virtual modes. This again talks about the gravity of the event that which we are gathered here for. With this said this, ladies and gentlemen, we now move forward with the remarks session, and it's my immense pleasure to be inviting up on stage the country representative from Nepal from FAO, Dr. Ken Simizu.
The chairperson of this regional policy dialogue on sustainable mountain solutions, the Honorable Ramshay Prasad Yadav, the Minister for Forest and Environment, our chief guest, the Right Honorable Sher Bahadur Dula, the Prime Minister of Nepal, the Honorable Roberto Natali, the Minister from the Government of Italy, and the Chairperson of the Mountain Partnership Steering Committee, special guest, the Honorable Purna Kumar Subed, the Honorable Binata Rai Pandey, member of the National Assembly, a distinguished guest, Mr. Shankar Das Baragi, the Chief Secretary from the Government, Government of Nepal, the Secretary of the Ministry of Forest and Environment, Dr. Pem Narayan Kandel, heads of agencies from UN ICIMOD, WWF, IUCN, Joint Secretaries, high-ranking officials, Executive Director of CURDAC, media representatives, and ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be part of this inaugural session of the Regional Policy Dialogue on Sustainable Mountain Solutions, and to be given an opportunity to speak on behalf of the international development partners in the presence of the Right Honorable Prime Minister. As was mentioned by earlier speakers, Nepal is the first country under this framework to initiate activities commemorating the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. So I'd like to, first of all, take this opportunity to commend and congratulate the government of Nepal for your strong leadership and advocacy. I also take the opportunity to congratulate all members of the organizing committee, associated partners, and all the enthusiasts advocating for sustainable mountain development agenda and for kickstarting the celebration of the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development Nepal, which will be celebrated through a series of events, as was explained by the Joint Secretary, starting with this regional policy dialogue, and I understand that the year objective of the activities is to develop a roadmap for actions to promote sustainable mountain development. The slogan "Mountain Matters" is being advocated globally in the course of celebrating the International Year of Mountain 2020. And it has a deep and far-reaching meaning, primarily because the mountains are home to 1.2 billion people and occupying nearly a quarter of the Earth's surface, and their surrounding ecosystems provide abundance of life-sustaining resources and services. I think the speakers before me have already spoken about the threats to mountain ecosystems and people, especially that of climate change. And we are all aware that people in the mountain communities face various challenges. A vast majority of them live below the poverty line in Nepal, and 1 out of 3 are in threat of food security. And these challenges are further exacerbated by deforestation, climate change, and of course, most recently, COVID-19 impacts. As a mountain country, Nepal has been a very strong advocate in terms of expressing concerns over the impact of climate change and the threat to biodiversity and cultural heritage in various international forums, such as the IPCC and the Conference of Parties to the UNFCCC and CBD, and most recently, as I think you are all aware, in COP26, Nepal, together with other mountainous countries, highlighted the issues and challenges faced by the mountain people residing in these areas, and the Right Honorable Prime Minister, in his address, expressed the need to recognize the specific climate vulnerability of the mountain countries and accord high priority to the mountain agenda in all climate-related negotiations. And this particular series of events in commemoration of the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development, I believe will be an excellent follow-up to COP26 and a lead into COP27. So again, I'd like to take this opportunity really to congratulate the government of Nepal and appreciate the government of Nepal and for their proactive role in wider collaboration among government agencies, civil society organizations, academia, researchers, community groups, private sector, and development partners. We hope that the keynote speeches from scientists, policymakers, and mountain stakeholders, both from Nepal and abroad, which will be delivered as part of this policy dialogue, will contribute to progressing the agenda towards sustainable mountain development. And I'd like to conclude by thanking you all for your strong support for this initiative, and I wish you a very productive discussion during the two-day policy dialogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you indeed for your very optimistic views and your good wishes. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, I now have the pleasure of inviting upon the podium, in fact, excuse me, our distinguished guest, the Chief Secretary of the Government of Nepal, Mr. Shankar Das Bairagi.
The chair of this important event, Honorable Minister for Forest and Environment, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, our chief guest today, Honorable Member of National Assembly, Madam Bimala Rai Paudel, my colleague Dr. Kandel, Secretary at the Ministry of Forest and Environment. I also recognize the presence of UN and specialized agencies representatives, partner agencies, conservation experts, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all thank the Ministry of Forest and Environment for hosting this important event, the first ever event under this year. I must congratulate the efforts made by them. We are truly honored today to have the gracious presence of the Right Honorable Prime Minister, under whose leadership Nepal has taken important initiatives in addressing climate-related issues and preserving ecological matters. As we are observing the International Year for Sustainable Mountain Development this year, I am confident that this event will help further highlight the cause and concern of mountainous countries and societies. For Nepal, the agenda of sustainable mountain development is of utmost importance. Covering more than 80% area of Nepal, mountains have served as a source of fresh water, hosted rich biodiversity, and nourishing long and rich tradition of culture. Ladies and gentlemen, mountains matter in many ways. They matter for people living in highlands as well as lowlands. For the mountainous countries like us, mountains are more than the subject of lore and source of fascination. They are our identity markers and signifier of our cultural heritage. Serving as an important component in hydrological cycle, mountains are in fact the pulse of the planet. High mountains also contribute as heat sink in summer. They are also the perennial source of fresh water for at least half of the global population. They host rich biodiversity hotspots. They provide valuable ecosystem services. More than that, they are organically linked with the ecosystems downstream, spanning up to the seas and oceans. So, the quest for sustainable mountain development is in a true sense a global agenda. However, the mountainous countries face their own unique challenges. The trajectory of development is costly, access to infrastructure and services is extremely difficult, people living in the mountainous regions face additional vulnerability, access to health, education, and services is equally challenging. The vicious cycle of poverty and hunger in the mountain is another matter of concern. There is an increasing tendency of out-migration of youths from the mountain regions. Despite the inherent richness of mountains, the situation of deprivation among the mountain people continues unabated. The mountain paradox must end with the implementation of the sustainable development in its all three dimensions. The development challenges of mountainous countries have been further aggravated due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Tourism sector has been dealt with a serious blow. Poverty is increasing as many of the households in mountains depend on the remittances. The volatility in the flow too creates additional difficulties. The recovery efforts must therefore put mountainous countries at front and at the center. The fire of mountainous regions should be connected with the markets. There is no region that the mountainous people should be deprived of sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth as envisaged in the SDGs. Similarly, financing of sustainable development, mountain development, must utilize all resources, internal as well as external, public as well as private. Equally important will be to customize the technologies and spearhead innovation that suit the unique need and context of the mountainous countries. Hydropower potential of mountainous countries should be tapped as an answer to development as well as ecological questions. It is also important to expand the alternative sources of livelihoods in mountains, including through entrepreneurship and private sector engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, while the world grapples with the crisis of climate change, mountains have felt even more disproportionate stress. In high mountains, temperature rise is higher than the global average due to elevation-dependent warming. Our mountains have significantly contributed to maintaining ecological balance through the process of recharging and cooling, yet mountainous countries like Nepal are bearing the disproportionate burden of climate change. This irony has to be exposed. We emit negligibly and contribute substantially to maintaining ecosystem. However, we feel the severest brunt of climate change, which has worsened the development woes. Such climate injustice must come to an end. A dedicated climate financing window for mountainous countries could be a practical step towards that goal. Despite the clarity of science and adverse impact of climate change in mountains, the mountains have not got enough attention in the climate negotiations. Though they have been part of the discussion, the outcome document have often been weak in addressing the issue. The shrinking of mountain cryosphere in high mountain areas has also led to negative impacts on food security, water resources, water quality, livelihoods, health, and well-being. This call for more holistic approach in achieving sustainable mountain development. Notably, the ecological health of mountains has ramifications on lowlands as well. The organic linkage between the terrestrial ecosystem and ocean ecosystem also make mountains the matter of global concern. As the 2019 Triennial Resolution of the UN General Assembly on Sustainable Mountain Development rightly recognizes, the mountain cryosphere has an impact on lowlands areas even far from the mountains. What happens in mountains affects physically, biologically, and many other ways the human system in the mountains and surrounding lowlands, with impacts evident in the ocean. We must accelerate our action to save our mountains from the climate assault and promote sustainable mountain development. In this light, cooperation and partnership at international, regional, and national level is critical for making sustainable mountain development a reality. In closing, I express my full confidence that the commemoration of this year as an International Year of Mountains will galvanize much needed global support for this noble cause. I thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your stress on mountains matter for people and for the planet, and especially for your call on meaningful action. Thank you indeed. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, next I have the privilege to invite in to the podium the Honorable Member of the National Assembly, Ms. Bimala Rai Paudel, to make her statement.
Respected Chair of Session, Honorable Minister of Forest and Environment, respected Chief Guest, Right Honorable Prime Minister Sarbadur Devaju, respected Chief Secretary Shankar Das Bairagiju, all respected dignitaries, I can see from FAO representatives here, I can see IUCN representatives, WWF representatives, all international dignitaries who are presented here, as well as those excellencies who are connected virtually. Respected government officials, respected all dignitaries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, as well as namaste from Nepal. Today, I'm very much honored to participate in this August event, as well as very much honored to share my remarks in this important event. Let me start from a short story. I had read a story by Robert Rath, a traveler in Nepal, about his journey in Nepal. Allow me to read it in a very short paragraph. The story says, "Do you believe in the Yeti?" I asked our Sherpa trek guide, Lakpa. "The Yeti are all gone now," said Lakpa. 20 years ago, maybe, but with the climate change, it's too warm for them. An experienced guide, Lakpa's seen in the Himalayan glaciers retreat firsthand, with spring coming earlier and the fall rain lingering later every year. The long-haired animals are having a hard time. Yes, the sheep and yaks are having very hard time in the mountains. Anything with short hair like you can survive, but those with long hair like madam, like me, as he said, he gestured to my wife and shook his hand. I tell you this about Yeti, added Lakpa. If you ask school children in Kathmandu to draw a chicken, they will draw a tandoori chicken cooked with no head. They have never been up in the mountain villages and seen a live chicken. It's the same when people talk about Yeti now. Ladies and gentlemen, I shared this story and I got two important messages from this story that I'm going to share with you today. Two important messages are that we are gifted by natures two very important assets that are very useful for humanity. One important asset is ecological diversity that we live in. The ecological diversity has mountains, has hills, has plains, and plenty of natural resources on which we count for our livelihoods. We are also gifted by human diversity. Human diversity, I mean the whole lots of ethnicities, caste, the traditions, the cultures, the values, the systems, and the knowledge that is connected with natural resources. So we are gifted with these two important, very important assets for survivors. Unfortunately, we have not been able to utilize these gifts productively and sustainably. And that is why the story tells. The story uses two metaphors. These are only the metaphors, ladies and gentlemen. Yeti is a metaphor. Many of the important natural resources of the mountains are now in danger. This tells the same story. Similarly, chicken is only the metaphor. Many of the dialogues that we held in Kathmandu or in the United States, in the UN, are sometimes very far from the reality. So these are the two metaphors that I wanted to share with you. Ladies and gentlemen, United Nations finally has declared the year 2022 as the year of sustainable mountain development. And I'm very delighted to note that Nepal is one of the first countries to start a dialogue on sustainable mountain solutions. At least we have realized the importance of mountain and sustainability. So this is a very important moment. Now, let me briefly touch upon the relevance of policy dialogue and International Year of Sustainable Mountain Solutions. Promoting global understanding and cooperation through dialogue, exchange, consensus building, and collaboration has been Nepal's long tradition and consistent policy. Why dialogues? Because in Eastern philosophy, where we live in, we have a saying in Sanskrit that Vade Vade Jayate Tattvabodha. That means dialogue and exchange of ideas results into true knowledge. We have dialogues, we have to have dialogues and exchange of ideas, skills, and resources in order to identify and work on opportunities and challenges that mountains are facing today. I'm very proud of Government of Nepal. Especially, I wanted to congratulate Ministry of Forest and Environment for initiating this regional policy dialogue, which is an important foundation to widen the partnership and to work on sustainable mountain solutions. I believe that the dialogue is an opening of regional exchange, and I wish a grand success of this dialogue. Having said that, I also want to make a comment here. I heard earlier from our secretary as well as from our joint secretary of the ministry that we have planned events to celebrate International Year of Mountain. But my remarks is it would be more effective if such dialogues are organized in mountains itself. You know why? Because I shared with you the chicken as a metaphor. As an gender expert, I have so many gender issues that I have recognized and working on. But I know little about mountain women. And I believe same for the economist, for the environmentalist, and for the sociologist. We know little about mountains. So I think we need to go and interact with people, interact with the environment there to know more about mountain. And then only we can have the solutions appropriate to resolve the issues. Another thing is, celebration is good. Yes, we celebrate. But more than that, let's act upon the gap that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to share with you that during the lockdown period, I had an opportunity to review policies related to forest and environment of 5 different countries of Hindu Kush Himalayas. And 2 important gaps that I came across. One, mountain agenda was the least mainstreamed agenda from development. Least. You need to find out where the mountain is written in our policies, in our programs. Not only from Nepal, but throughout the Hindu Kush Himalayas that I have observed. The second, there is a lack of coherence between the policy documents, programs, human resources, and investment that we made on mountain issues. I think during this International Year of Development, we really need to work hard to bridge these gaps that we have realized. Then only we can say that, yes, we have observed International Year of Mountains, and thus we are really serious on mountain issues. Having said that, once again, I warmly welcome all the participants, those who are connected virtually, as well as those who are present here, especially the international experts and dignitaries in this beautiful hill. Wish you all very comfortable stay, as well as wish you all for a very, very active participation and gainful participation. Thank you.
Thank you indeed, Honorable Ms. Bimla Rai Paurel, for this beautiful analogy and those thought-provoking statements. It was indeed a pleasure listening to you. Ladies and gentlemen, besides the snow and glaciers that are the lifeline to this entire planet, what we are running out at this very moment is time. I'm sure we all agree at this. Now this, as most of our speakers, our distinguished speakers pointed out, this calls for a synergy in our efforts and action without further ado, and most importantly, meaningful policy and action. Today, at the commencement of the IYM 2022 here in Nepal, we are profoundly delighted, ladies and gentlemen, and humbled as well by the gracious presence of the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal. The presence, the gesture in itself speaks for the government's commitment and sensitivity to the mountain agenda. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me now in placing our humble request to our chief guest, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, to address this forum.
Chair of this regional policy dialogue, distinguished guests, keynote speakers, and panelists, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you all in this regional policy dialogue on sustainable mountain solution to observe International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development 2022. The year 2022 is being observed by the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. I feel happy to be part of these commemorations. While the mountains in the world continue to grapple with the challenges such as natural disaster, climate change, I am confident that the activities throughout this year will contribute to raise the awareness of the importance of conservation and sustainable use of mountain resources. The government in Nepal has decided to undertake a number of programs and activities to highlight the problem and the prospect of mountains in Nepal. Ladies and gentlemen, mountains nourishes lives, provide livelihoods. They are a source of ecosystem that supports millions of people living in and abroad, living in and around the mountain landscape. Moreover, mountains are the water tower, providing fresh water to more than half of the humanity. They are home to unique species of flora and fauna. They are not only vital for people living around them, but also crucial for those living in downstream. However, mountains and the people living there continue to confront with the several difficulties: poverty, food insecurity, environmental degradation, risk of disasters, limited access to basic services are the challenges that mountains region increasingly confront. And in the quagmire of climate change, mountains are the hotspot. They are not only the barometers of the global warming, but also victims of disappropriate impact despite the negligible emissions of the mountainous country like Nepal. The world has not done enough to address environment degradation as the consequences of climate change has assumed crisis proportion beyond our control. We need to take urgent measures to halt global temperature rise to secure the future of humanity. Nepal has adopted the ambitious roadmap to achieve net zero carbon emission by 2045. We call upon international community for meaningful support in our efforts. Many scientific studies of the extreme weather patterns reveal that mountain regions are getting warmer much faster than the global average. Melting the snow, retreat the glaciers, drought, erratic rainfall, flood already hints the cautionary tales. Agenda for sustainable mountain development has been priority matter for Nepal. We raised our voice in Glasgow during COP26, but there is a long way to go for mainstreaming mountain agenda in the climate negotiations. We need stronger collaboration among the mountain countries in the UN climate change negotiation to address our agenda. Nepal will continue to play a key role in global forum to address the concern of mountainous countries. Moreover, as the world is now in the decade of action to deliver the sustainable development goal, it is important that mountainous regions are not left behind. Our unique development challenges must be addressed by ensuring adequate financing, both internal as well as external, that is cheap and affordable. We must not suffer from inadequacy of the commitment, action, delivery on development outcomes. The commitment delivery gap will erode credibility and international development. We all must act in due partnership to realize SDGs by all. Nature-based solutions are important to address development of ecological needs. COVID-19 pandemic has spared no one, but economic of mountainous countries have been hit hard as the tourism industry has been gravely disturbed. In the quest of recovery, mountainous countries requires further cooperation and support from the international community. It is equally important to preserve indigenous culture, generate employment opportunity, ensure development of sustainable infrastructure. The government of Nepal is committed to this pursuit in order to achieve sustainable mountain development. I am confident that this event will be helpful in synthesizing agenda for mountainous country and ultimately contribute to the achieving sustainable mountain development. I conclude with my words of the best wishes for the success of this regional policy dialogue as well as International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. I also look forward for celebrating the year of various programs and activities, including Mountain North Policy Summit in Mustang. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Sher Bahadur Deuba, firstly for your very, very valued presence amidst us today, and secondly for those very important valued concerns and commitments and optimism that was shared or reflected in your address. We are very much hopeful that your gracious presence, your very meaningful presence today amidst us, and your leadership in the days ahead are only going to add to the synergy of our actions in the days ahead. Said that, ladies and gentlemen, I now have the privilege of steering you all towards the very final moments of this commencement ceremony. As we move towards the final moments, certainly understanding, commitment, and solidarity, ladies and gentlemen, are key to converting the challenges and opportunities in the agendas that we have undertaken in order to fetch sustainable mountain solutions, which again are very much pivotal in saving our mountains, our planet, us. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in placing our humble request to the chair of this session, the Honorable Minister for Forest and Environment, Honorable Ramshahai Prasad Yadav, for his remarks and also to formally adjourn this opening ceremony.
The Chief Guest, Right Honorable Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba, distinguished guests, keynote speakers and panelists, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I am much grateful to Right Honorable Prime Minister for your gracious presence in this grand opening of Nepal's celebration of International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development 2022. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this regional policy dialogue on sustainable mountain solutions as a first episode of observing the Mountain Year programs in Nepal. The designation of the year as the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development by the United Nations General Assembly emphasizes how valuable mountains are for the people, nature, and planet. Nepal is one of the mountainous countries. We are very much delighted to observe the year with a number of activities and programs throughout the year. Mountainous to us are not just geographic landscapes, but are vital for people, biodiversity conservation, economic prosperity, environmental soundness, nature-based recreation, and climate resilience. Mountains connect lowlands, recharge water, and rejuvenate river systems, and support unique ecosystem and cultures. Threat to mountain biodiversity and ecosystems, however, continues due to climate change, loss of soil fertility, deforestation, land degradation, and buildup of toxic chemicals. Challenges faced by mountainous countries across the world, particularly among developing countries, are almost similar. Mountains are not problems, but instead solutions if nations work together. We would like to create mountain-based solutions to common problems, including extreme poverty and climate change. Knowledge exchange, technology transfer, cooperation, and partnership between and among mountainous nations are therefore crucial to collectively seek common solutions to the challenges. Collective work among mountain nations for international negotiation is also urgent. On behalf of the Ministry of Forest and Environment, I am grateful to United Nations for designating 2022 as the Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. I welcome all the keynote speakers, panelists, chairpersons, guests, and participants connected to this policy dialogue, physically and also virtually from across the world. I wish grand success of this regional policy dialogue and this International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development. Thank you.
And now, with the permission of the chair, I announce the close of this opening session. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Right Honourable Prime Minister as I announce the departure of the Right Honourable Chief Guest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your great participation in the opening session. We now would like to invite you all for lunch that has been served outside. It's going to be a 1 hour-long lunch session, following which we hope to see you back in the hall for the first thematic session of the day. We are scheduling the first panel at 1:45 p.m. We request you all to now to proceed towards the lunch area. Bon appetit, and we will see you back here at the hall at 1:45 for the first thematic session. Thank you one more time.